Alright, this video is directed towards speculation. It's for entertainment purposes only. It's an attempt at putting some of the patterns that I've been seeing together in videos that, although maybe not wholly true, again, nothing is, I don't think, wholly true, but you know, that have bits and pieces of really important truths that might, you know, fall out in the future. In particular, I'm going to focus on this notion of what some of the experimentation in the American government in particular that I think dates back to really the Nazi era of you know, looking at the powers of the psyche and you know, remote viewing. It's on record they were trying to do it, which is suggestive that they have at least some belief in the power of that, you know, telekinesis and these sorts of things. Again, a really good book that gives an overview of scientific research that's highly suggestive of this is Michael Murphy's Future of the Body. One of the more interesting examples was where they show emotionally charged photos to individuals. They flash them, and then the individual seems to react prior to the photo being flashed, about a second or two. So there's like this mental charge that happens prior to it happening, being flashing in front of their eyes, which suggests that there is some sort of future understanding of what's going to happen to some small extent, which means that our understanding of time isn't exactly right. There was, so another video was saying that there was another test that was taking place in 1983 wherein a yogi was concentrating very intensely, meditating essentially, and they were tapping into somehow they had this machine that was registering the bioenergetics. Now this video goes kind of strange and says that there was a rift in the space-time continuum, as it were, and it created two parallel realities which we are living through presently, somehow. Again, this is quite speculative, but we'll tie some of it together, whether or not the tying together is right. And so we are phase shifting back and forth between these two realities, but they are actually they're rejoining, and so therefore our phase shifting is taking place at a higher and higher pace presently, so that, you know, the phases are getting much closer together. We'll move into spiral dynamics a little bit, and then we'll swerve back here. Spiral dynamics says that there's a level of consciousness, yellow namely, where one switches from switches into being needs from sort of self needs, essentially, so that one has a sense of overflowing. There's an abundance in their life, a superabundance in their life, and then there's a sense that you want to give. When you connect this with things about like 2012, where if it is the case that there's something to that, I mean, there's, interestingly, the postmodern West is essentially framed in sort of a greenish mindset, which is the level just below the integrative waves, which is also still, you know, very, very self-directed, whereas being needs starts to kind of be open. I would almost call it soul needs or something. Maybe. Being needs is great though. But okay, so there's also this notion of exponential change, and it's quite real. computer, like especially in the technological world, it's much more seeable, but it's happening in all four quadrants, which means it's happening psychologically too, wherein the patterns are speeding up and development is speeding up. And so 2 years, although it might not seem like very much, is actually in this change of this exponential change quite a bit, and potentially enough to get us into the being needs realm, which when you read the Bible in certain ways also parallels this, the age of light and life, wherein one's soul body is made manifest, as it were, but kind of ruled arguably on high from sort of an archangel that allows you to live life eternal. I've been reading Urantia, whether or not that's right, is sort of similar in that sense, the age of light and life made manifest through Michael or Jesus. It's pretty far out stuff. But, looking at predictive programming, or even just programming, there's the movie called The Watchmen. Predictive programming is the idea that the government-ish / Hollywood present movies to us and ideas to us that allow them to do future events. So in The Watchmen, there's this blue character, I forget his name, but he's focusing on future events. He's trying to understand what's going to be happening in the future. Now I've been watching other videos, and it's suggestive that the government, through similar programs, have been trying to do just that, like so the remote viewing program, right? But in so doing, they're actually trying to understand the possible paths in which we might march down, and then forcing their hand to create certain future events, future paths. But there's probabilities, and this video suggests that they haven't been successful in that. But that at 2012 or thereabouts, there's no real ability to see any further. They have a blockage of sight at that point. And in The Watchmen, there's that similar thing where you can't see any further kind of thing. Running into a roadblock at that point. And interestingly, this is just another thing about the nature of the subtle body. It's representative in a lot of texts as a blue being, like the subtle body as blue, holding the chakras. In itself, the blue level is probably at the throat. Never the anyway. So you can look at this in a few ways, that the people pushing this forward are kind of at that blue wave of consciousness. They can't see any further, and they're using things in a very negative format, which would be the transition to 2012, which is the movement in some scale into the spiritual levels. I don't know. Pretty weird stuff. Anyways, blessings, guys.